Christian ministry is not a replacement for Christian discipleship. You can't write off going to serve the poor as your prayer. You can't write off going to stay up late to help clean up after a youth group event as your prayer. You need to sit down and have that time with the Lord. Coffee drinker, but wife made some pumpkin spice latte mix, and she seemed a little bit offended that I said I didn't want one. Speaking of my wife, I will consider my wife my secondary vocation. On this side of heaven, of course, it's my primary vocation. St. Teresa of Lisieux has that quote that finally at last I found my vocation. My vocation is love. And so I think that's my primary vocation. I think it's all of our primary vocation is loving the Father, loving God, entering that communion. Secondary vocation that on earth, a big V vocation that people say, is definitely my wife. And then, of course, there's those small V vocations that people tend to say, those things that we fill our time with, that we feel passionate, called to, or certain maybe disciplines or ministries that we're involved in. That's what I'm going to talk about. Something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is quitting YouTube. I just started this channel. Even before I started this channel, I've been thinking about quitting it so much. That's been my prayer. Should I quit this? Not consistently, but it's been a consistent prayer of mine for the past couple of weeks, considering starting this channel and even now starting the channel, doing these videos, is that should I quit YouTube? And what I've come down to at the end of the day is that, yeah, I'm going to quit YouTube. I will quit YouTube if it ever becomes a roadblock between me and the Lord. I feel like this summer has just been a time of growth for me. I don't want to put something in between us. Even the podcast. The podcast is where I wanted to start. When I told Eve that I want to do a podcast, she's like, you should do a YouTube channel. Like, let's do it. And she got the video and she made the channel and she did all this. I was like, oh, sure, I'll do it. But when I was thinking about it, I don't want to do it if it's going to get in the way of my relationship with the Lord. And I think that's something I have struggled with in the past. I think a lot of people in the Christian church and in the Catholic church struggle with this as well. Is that when we take something that we're doing, that we're passionate about, and doing it for the Lord, it becomes our relationship. So this idea that Christian ministry is not Christian discipleship. So after high school, I did a year of net ministry. So I served as a missionary for 9 months on a team in Texas, actually, just serving at a parish, doing discipleship, doing outreach, high school, youth group type stuff. And I think there's this tendency with certain organizations to just claim that as your identity. So I am a net missionary. That was something that was common for me to say while I was on there. But even in college, oh yeah, I was a net missionary. We had this community of net missionary alumni and we all like to hang out. I always remember there was always this one girl. She did net in Ireland. I mean, it was funny. She very much isolated herself on purpose from the net group. And I think that's a good. I think there's a tendency to have that, like I said, that over identification with something. Like, oh yeah, I did net. And she saw, which is good, that like those people that did net and I said, yeah, I am a net missionary. I was a net missionary. There's just too much emphasis on it in a certain kind of weird spirit, not a bad spirit, just so it couldn't be weird, but weird spirit about it. And so that's what I was thinking about is that now, so yeah, I used to do that with net and maybe other things, but now, oh, sure, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I don't want this to become who I am. My best friend, Lucas, he's been harassing my wife for a while ever since she started her podcast and stuff and her Instagram business. And she's been like, oh, you're an influencer. He just always, oh, influencer. And now that he heard that I was starting a YouTube channel, I was like, oh, look at that. You're both influencers. And of course, he's just harassing us, which is good for him. But there's a tendency to make that our identity. And this is something else that I've mentioned before, but Kin Zember mentioned. It's funny. She was very persistent at all times to not take on things, good or bad, onto her identity, she said. So for example, she started a ministry in Ethiopia, I believe. And when she would come back to the States, she'd be like, oh yeah, you're the missionary. And people would say that to her. And she'd be like, no, I'm not the missionary. And they'd be like, but you have that mission group. You started that mission group, right? It's you. Yeah. I do mission work, but I'm not a missionary. I'm Kim, a daughter of God. And she even said her job. She used to be a really young, successful realtor, I think in California. And people were like, oh, wow, you're that young, really good realtor. She was like, no, not me. That's not me. But she was, yeah, sure. I sell houses. That's what I do, but it's not who I am. And that really sparked this interest in my mind as well. I was like, that's so good. It's annoying. And that's what my wife says. We appreciate the point she was getting at, but it was annoying, but it should be annoying. Like, we should be so persistent on who we are. Like, first, we are a child of God. And that's something even I struggled with when naming this YouTube channel, is that I don't like putting a Catholic dad because I'm a son first. And then also first, I'm a husband. So I was like, I got to make sure that my subline doesn't sound too much like I'm just focusing on parenting or just focusing on XYZ, because I'm so much more than a Catholic dad. I'm so much more than a Catholic husband. I'm a son of God, and that's my identity first. So there's a tendency to take what we're doing and make it part of our identity. That's the good and the bad. Of course, we see that with sin, but right now I'm really just talking about the good. Like, think about it in your life. What are those things that you're involved with, and how do you relate to them? I have a lot of friends, at least a handful of good friends that are part of Damascus. It's a really good organization, really good mission. I love what they do. There's a lot of things that I really love. But there's a tendency to see those people and be like, oh yeah, you're the Damascus guys. You're the Damascus people. You work for Damascus. You live and breathe Damascus. And for a few of those guys, it seems like they do live and breathe Damascus. But I don't think they would say at the end of the day their primary identity is Damascus, because I believe that they're good, holy men. But the point I'm getting at is that when we have these good things that we're involved in, we have to be careful not to make that part of identity, because it's easy to say, yeah, I'm a Damascus missionary. That is a good thing, and I'm proud of it, and you should be proud of it. If this YouTube channel is a place for me to share my thoughts, to process, like, I should be proud of this, but it's not who I am. It's a good, and I believe I'm doing it for the Lord, but it's not who I am. Because when we start to take on that, we start to settle with our primary vocation of loving God. In fatherhood, for example, for me, there was a season of my life, especially last summer when I was at home, that I can take on this primary vocation, or I can replace my primary vocation for being a dad or a husband. For example, let's say it's a busy evening. My wife's she was growing her business last year. So she's growing her business. She's working on some stuff. So I'm taking care of Avila. Dinner needs made. Laundry needs done. Avila needs fed. Avila needs bathed. Then I want to hang out with you. So there's a lot of these good things. I'm making dinner. I'm spending time with my daughter. I'm giving her a bath. I'm putting her to bed. And then after I put her to bed, I'm with my wife. I'm doing laundry. These good things. And they're good because I'm serving the Lord in that. I'm serving my family in that. But what I found is that I was saying, I haven't got prayer time in today, but like, this is my prayer. And do small things with great love. Like, make work my prayer. And that's it's good to take those things that you have to do in life and make them a prayer, no doubt. But they can't replace it. They replaced it for me. There was a season where I would do these good things. I would be a good husband and a good father. But I said, I'm doing these good things. Those are my prayer. Like, the Lord understands if I don't get prayer in this evening, because I prayed all day in my works, I worked with my hands. The Lord understands if I don't wake up early to pray because I didn't go to sleep until 11 because I was hanging out with my wife. Or the Lord understands if I don't get prayer in this evening because I was up early taking care of my daughter. We have a tendency as human persons just to rationalize everything and anything to make it easier for us. And the realization that I've come to have is that, yeah, you should be getting up early to help your family. You should be staying up late to spend time with your wife. You need to do those things because that's part of your vocation as a husband, as a father. But you can't forget your primary vocation to love the Lord. And in this season, I've been really just trying to push and like even challenge myself. Like, if I'm going to do things to work out, like, that's a good, I need to work out and I need to clean the kitchen and I need to put my daughter to bed. If I'm going to do those things, I better be getting up in the morning as well to pray. Because if we're involved in this Christian ministry, if we're involved in Damascus, Net, Christ in the City, Dry Bones, Parish Ministry, whatever it is, if you're involved in this thing, those are good things. But because you're involved in those things, don't make them your identity. Because if you make them your identity, as soon as something goes off, let's say, for example, if this YouTube channel doesn't go well, if I've made this my identity, my relationship with the Lord's gone. Or my identity is I'm a good father and a good husband, and our marriage is just hitting a funk, then my relationship with the Lord is gone. If you're involved in a parish, if you're involved in mission, and your mission is not going how you hope to, if you want to get 150 people at this event and only 50 people come in, or as a missionary, you're doing a summer camp and you feel like the kids aren't turning to the Lord as well, like your relationship's going to dwindle. But if you're always steadfast in the Lord, the way, the truth, and life, the foundation of who you are, then you don't have to worry if that thing doesn't work out. You have to worry if you're called elsewhere, hopefully, because I'm putting my identity solely and fully in the Lord. If he calls me out of this YouTube channel, or if this YouTube channel is not doing well and I abandon it, I'll know that the Lord desired that. I'll be content. This YouTube channel is my identity because this ministry is not my identity. Like, Christian ministry is not a replacement for Christian discipleship. You can't write off going to serve the poor as your prayer. You can't write off going to stay up late to help clean up after a youth group event as your prayer. You need to sit down and have that time with the Lord. You need to give yourself fully to him. Like, let's look at Jesus. If we are looking for a model of Christian discipleship and Christian ministry, who better to look at than Jesus Christ himself? So if we look at Jesus and his ministry, obviously he's extending himself to a large extent. I really appreciate the Chosen series because it shows that humanity side. And of course, there's artistic flair there. And some people don't like that. But I like that it shows that humanity. And in scriptures, you can read that. You can see Christ just being totally exhausted. He's sleeping on a storm-ridden boat. Like, he's probably tired. He is just pushing himself to a total extent. It'd be really easy for the human side to say, you're healing all day and you're preaching all day and you're serving the poor all day. It's okay to go to bed without saying your evening prayer. It's okay to sleep in a little bit so you're well rested. There's that human side that's able to rationalize and say, Jesus was doing so good. Why did he even need to pray? Like, his whole life was a prayer. He is the God man and he needs to pray. But yet we see time and time again, Jesus going to be by himself. He feeds 5,000 people, preaches, tells them he is the bread of life. That's good. That's prayer. But after that, he goes to be by himself. Time and time again, he ascends the mountain to be with his Father. Because as Mother Teresa says, they said to the CFRs, if you're going to be doing this ministry, you need to pray even more. Because when they were considering, I don't think we can fit a holy hour in. That's what Father Benedict Grishel was saying, because there's so much to do in the city. We don't know if we can fit a holy hour. Mother Teresa said, then pray two. Because prayer is the most important part. Prayer is that link between that primary vocation of loving God, loving our primary identity, of saying, Lord, above everything else, above my ministry, above even my primary vocation on this end, at the end of the day, it's you and me, Lord. I want to come to you as your beloved son, as your beloved daughter, and recognize that no matter what, I have you. So just challenge you to look at those things that you're involved in, those ministries that you're involved in, and make sure when you describe who you are, when someone says, hey, tell me about yourself. Who are you? See, where do you place those ministries? Where do you place those certain passions that you have? Hopefully I'm Nick O'Brien, a son of God, husband, a father. And yeah, I have a YouTube channel where, yeah, I'm involved in this pastoral ministry center on my campus. Whatever it is, we need to watch out that our identities don't get wrapped up in something else. Because as soon as we become Nick O'Brien, the YouTuber, Nick O'Brien, the youth minister, whoever you are, whatever you're involved in, we're forgetting our true rock, our true foundation. We're called first to be sons, to be disciples, and to love. Because if we don't embrace that, we're not going to be able to live fully alive. Because we'll be settling for something that isn't who we're called to be. We're only fully alive when we're fully his. We fully rest in him and reunited with him. If we try to put something in between, if we try to use a step stool to get closer to him, I want to be involved in this mission so I get a little bit closer to him because it's a good thing to do. No, first we go to him. Everything else builds upon him. So identity is in Him. Christian ministry is not a replacement for Christian discipleship. So go and love Jesus, and then out of that love of Jesus, go serve.